Hi there, today we're going to be making some bluebells. I'm using Hearty Soft, Artista Soft, and it's the deluxe version that I like using. Now this is an air drying clay. They were also used in that tutorial you saw with the fir cones, and I'm just showing you how unbreakable they are by breaking some little horse chestnut leaves. Now, I tend to buy the white and then I colour it up myself, but it does come in a range of colours and they act as pigments, so you can mix each of the colours together to achieve the colour shades that you want. Whatever happens, you have to keep it in that sandwich bag. That's really important. But otherwise, it'll last for 6 to 9 months once it's open. I apologise that everything's backwards. This was grabbed off my Facebook Live. Now I'm going to be using the Fractal Colors royal blue gel colour to colour it. I'm showing you on the edges that was painted and you can see the edges look slightly paler. So I just didn't want the leaf to look too solid in colour. So that one was painted instead. Today we're going to be colouring the paste with the gel and then we're going to be dusting it. So that's showing you something different. There we go. You just saw what we've been making on a Monday evening. We also did these bluebells on a Wednesday evening, but before I did the class, I hadn't actually made them with the Artista Soft, Hearty Soft Deluxe clay before. I'd only ever made them in flour paste, which is an edible medium. This is one of those essential tools. That is the PME 5 and 6 star cone. Now, it's called 5 and 6 star because it's got a star with 5 serrations on one side and 6 on the other. And this is the Squires Kitchen veining tool. So two of the tools I'm going to use today. You're also going to need a cell pad or a flower pad, a small sharp pointed scissors. I tend to use cornflour a lot because I do get quite hot hands. Now when you're using glue for this, you can use edible glue or you can use the Impex high tack glue. I'm also showing you the Stamen I use as well. Now these are all by Culpit. There's the micro Stamens, which are the last ones I show you, and the mini. So you can use either of those which you have. So you're going to need 3. Now I tend to cut them in half, but each of the bluebells is going to have 6. That's Nile green floristry tape and that's half width as well. And with the wires, you barely need any support at all. But I'm telling the students here that they can use what they've got. I'm going to be using a 28 gauge wire. I always buy white because I find that if I use the white, I'm going to tape the stems anyway, so I can just tape the stems to whatever I need. So grab your scissors and cut those stamen in half. You're not going to use the full length of that either. Now I'm explaining here that with florist tape you need to stretch it and it changes colour. If it hasn't changed colour and stretched, it's not activated the glue. And I started taping up the wire, then I'm going to just give a sharp twist around the stamen and then I'm going to trim them off. I always do this because otherwise you end up with too much bulk on your wire. Then I can tape down nice and neatly. Now, can you see how tight I'm holding that tape to the wire? And then you get a really nice smooth surface. With every stamen, it's representing the pollen. Now, I've already just used my dust brush for yellow, so I've just grabbed at that and you can see the yellow colour there. That was Fractal Colors lemon yellow dust. So I've just dusted the very heads of the stamen. So this is a little bit of the blue that I've already pre-coloured. And you're talking a very small piece of paste. You can see the squares on my board are all 1 centimetre. That cone is now 2 centimetres long. Can you see me cornflour in the tool so you can see what's going to happen? It's going to get sticky. Now, a lot of the time you see people doing this method, they push the tool into the broad end of the cone. We're doing the other way. And you're also making it nice and equal. So when you're pushing that tool, you're very gently pressing the paste on. Then when you remove the tool, you won't have such a rotten mess as I get. I can never cut them even, so you often see me trimming. But when I make bluebells, I always trim them to a point anyway. I'm obviously neatening off screen. What you don't realise is I've got a camera right in front of my nose. So when I'm filming, I actually cannot see my table. So I'm trying to look through the camera, but you don't get a clear picture. So yeah, bluebell, got slightly pointy petals. They've got 6. So if you trim it to a point, it's easier to use. It's got to be the scruffiest bluebell I've ever made, but This is why I did it before class, because I wanted to test this particular paste. I'm used to a paste that you have to work a lot harder with. This is so beautifully soft, you barely have to press. It's amazing. Get all those bits and pop them out to one way. You can't use them again, they're too soft. They dry a little bit firmer as well. So I wanted to tuck up those little edges. Can you see? Rolling your paintbrush handle on the foam pad and it curls back those edges. I wanted to put the same tool back in. Now you can see me pinching just behind the head of the flower because that thins down the head. And if you think you're going to drop a flower, let it fall to your work surface because it actually doesn't damage. If you try to catch it, you'll squish it. So there you go, got a cranked angled tweezers and I've got my Dresden. I pop it back on there to put the marks on. So use the veining tool, which is the thin side of your Dresden, to mark 6 lines down. I always keep pushing those little edges back, don't I? Now, you might need glue, but I didn't on this day because it was so warm. Slide it in, and can you see me closing the opening of that flower? I also go back in where I closed the opening, because with the Artista Soft, it takes every single piece of pressure you give it. So you barely have to touch and it smooths away again. Can you see the method? I'm turning that over. You want it to look like a little street lamp or a fairy's lamp. They're so cute. Can you see the difference in colours on there? You can't just colour your paste. You've got to do some dusting as well. It makes such a huge difference. So you can see I always cut my wires at an angle. Now that's usually for leaves, but it's a good habit to get into. When you cut your wires at an angle, that cut end will be pointed. I'm showing you how to do a bud here. So I've taped a little bit of the wire. All plants look brilliant if you put a bud in there. And the reason I've taped it is because it helps it stick to that wire. Can you see the shape of it as well? It's just under, I think this was just over 1 centimetre in the full length of this bud. I was just showing a scribe there because a really neat way of getting these lines in is by using the scribe. That's in a PME toolkit as well. And can you see me using the Squires Kitchen tool just to get a little bit of texture on the bud so that you know there's a flower in there waiting to come out. I always think it looks nicer. So I'm obviously going to show you another one now. Well, you can't do a bluebell stem with only one flower, can you? So taping up, so tape up to the top and then catch the stamen, twist tightly. Oops, obviously I had a stray one trying to escape there. Slippery little so-and-sos. Trim off the excess of the stamen cottons as well. Pull that tape nice and sharp, stretching as you go and taping down. Dust in the tips again with yellow, that's lemon yellow. And I was just to sort of say, because somebody obviously asked a question, because this was a Facebook Live. Always make sure your paste is nice and stretchy. Even air drying clay, it's not quite the same as using flour paste, I know, but if your paste is nice and stretchy, it's always ready to use. And you always go in on the pointed end of this cone when you're trying to make a flower with a wider back. Oh, can you see how squishy it is? I made those months before, but I can still squeeze them. Now we're talking now a bit more about shaping the back. So the back of a bluebell flower is bulbous, whereas where it's closer to the opening of the flower is thinner. So that lovely PME taper cone has made lovely marks inside. And as you can see, I'm still atrocious at cutting along those lines. But once you've done it, trim each one to a point. You only have to trim one side of each one to get it to a point, unless you feel it's a little bit thick, and that's your time to, how should we say it? Hide your mistakes. Thin them by squeezing them between finger and thumb. Trimming again if you need to. As you can see, I do a lot of trimming. If it really goes wrong, just squish it up and start again. But I'm obviously yapping away when I'm talking and my head is stuck behind that monitor again. So, so grab that paintbrush handle again and roll from the outside of each petal and in towards the centre. Can you see how beautifully they start to curl back already? Now, because they've started to curl, you can use your fingers to curl them even more. If you're worried about using your fingers, which somebody's obviously just asked me, you can use the paintbrush handle to push them in. You've used the 6th side, so therefore you push it back onto the 6th side. Make sure you don't swap sides. And I'm pressing those lines in again. Now, I know we've already done this once, but it's always great to see it again, isn't it? Can you see? Closing the opening up a little bit. Getting that stamen. Now, if you needed some glue, you could paint a very small amount of glue around the very tip of the green. Can you see the bulbous bottom at the base of that flower? There we go. It's much better, isn't it? Now, there's some white tape there. I'm going to show you how to do the twiddles, the bracts. So when you look at a bluebell, there's lots of little almost furry bits. They're just like little bits of stalk at the end. And I tend to make them in white and then dust them blue. But you could also make them in green and dust them blue because both of them works. And all you're doing is twisting the tape back on itself. I've done some full width and I've done some quarter width. Because don't forget, this is half width tape already. So I'm just showing you how to make thinner ones. So you just twist it. Can you see? And as long as you've stretched it first, it twists quite nicely. So there we go. So I'm getting a stronger wire now to assemble it onto, along with my half width tape. Oh no, full width. Is that full width? Yeah, it looks like. Oh, I'm showing you a leaf. I forgot I was going to do this. So this is in the book as well. So Cyril's Cake Adventure. This is how I make the grass. But this is a great method for leaves. You're going to stretch your tape first. This will be on a 26 gauge wire. And can you see I'm fixing down that tape? Trim away the excess. And then you've got to make sure you've caught that vein. Can you see I pinch it between finger and thumb? And always release it from your board with a palette knife because it will stick. Trim the edges to a point. There we go. And then look, all you've got to do is shape it. How amazing is that to do? A lovely lady called Janet Side showed me how to do that for daffodil leaves many moons ago. Now I've gone ahead and made a second bud there. So I'm just going to start testing out this azure blue. So all I'm doing, I'm sorry it's off camera, I'll realise in a second, is catching some dust at the very base. And then I've got another student who's got some Sugarflair colours. So I grabbed some Sugarflairs. So I shall show you which ones I've got now. So I got the bluebell and the cornflower. So it's just a slightly different blue. So you can use whichever colours you've got at home. So I've just gone over the azure blue with a bit of cornflower because I can't use a totally different colour in the same arrangement, can I? And I know that I'm going to show the next one using the bluebell and then the cornflower. There's so many ways to work with these. So this is now with bluebell first, and I use a photographer's lens cleaner to blow off the excess. And this gives you a slightly paler one as well. Now you can also use the Wisteria Blue by Squires Kitchen because what I've got is the bluebell there has got a little hint of lilac in with it. So you can obviously add your purples in with your blue as well, can't you? And you can change the tones. But you do the same to the flower as you've done to the buds. So you catch a bit at the base and then a little bit on the tip. But whatever you do, don't colour it all solid one colour because it just looks really flat. Yeah, so sorry that it's off screen here, but this was just a super fast Facebook Live before I was about to teach. And we were chatting away while I was doing the live, which is a really bad thing. Saying hello to people on Facebook you haven't seen for ages. So I'm going to start assembling, and I'm going to be using all those little bract pieces that we made. Do you remember out of the twisted white tape? Oh, always stick your lids on. There's nothing worse. And I actually dust those tape bits. Now, you can assemble the whole thing and you can dust it afterwards. Oh, that's because the window was open. It was back right at the start of term, and it was really warm in September. And every time the wind blew, all of the blinds in the schoolroom open. That's why you see a flash of light across the table. So you can see the way they're assembled. We're going to grab the 2 buds, grab all of those bracts, and then they randomly grow around the buds. And you're just ever so gently taping them on before you bend it a little bit and then start on the buds themselves. Now, when you see bluebells in the wild, they can have anything from 1 flower on there to about 15 flowers. There can be so many flowers, and they don't all grow in the same direction either. So when you see the wild ones, they look really gorgeous. Some facing this way, some facing that way, as if they've argued. But then when you see them, when you get them in the bouquets, obviously they all tend to be straight, don't they? I've only done 1 leaf because this was a super short demonstration of about 45 minutes. But it was just to show you that the leaf actually curls around the stem when it grows. But obviously there would be multitudes of leaves to go with it because it's very leaf heavy, isn't it, when you see this plant? So we see these everywhere in the woodlands in the spring. It's absolutely glorious. So if you drive down to the Forest of Dean, there's always one banking on the right hand side as you're going down that main A road, and it's just blue. It's beautiful. There you go. I hope you enjoyed it. So stay safe, happy caking. See you soon.